So as the weather gets more challenging, I thought I'd bring you today to the usual spot where I do what we know as the winter swimming, the cold swimming. It is those huts over there you see. This is our main harbor. This is one of the beaches. We've got two, one on this side, one on the other side of the harbor. And those huts you see over there, those are where we have the changing rooms, the sauna, and we've got some steps leading down to the ocean, which makes life a lot easier than going in from the sea, because you don't have to walk that far to be covered with water, especially when it's super cold. It's starting to get challenging now in that temperature today, air temperature is around 13 degrees, hence my warm hat and warmer clothes. But it feels, because there's a bit of a breeze, it feels around 7 degrees centigrade. We'll put up all the Fahrenheits for you. So what I do is I'll just pop in and stay in the sea for a few minutes. It's not challenging too badly now because the sea temperature is still relatively mild. It's around 15 degrees, I think, thereabouts. So I just thought I'd show you from where I do this. And then I can explain a little bit on how I started doing this and the benefits I've found since been doing this now for 5 years, almost in September. No, actually it is now September. 5 years ago is when I started. So we'll have a chat about that once we've been in the sea. So today with the wind, as I said before, it's you definitely feel a bit cold around my ears. As you wet your head, then the cold starts to set in. It's not too bad compared to what we're gonna get to when I bring you with me in the middle of winter, but it's definitely more challenging today. My hands also, I tend to keep them out of the water, just because I don't want to lose the heat through my hands as well. But you can see behind me, there's quite a few people. I don't know whether it will focus that far. There's quite a few people walking the dogs on the beach. That's very normal. The forest behind the beach, and then our city, a lovely little town, Hornbeck, in North Zealand. It started to rain, and that's one thing I really hate. Now I'm in the sea and it's okay, but I hate coming in to the sea when it's raining. I hate getting wet before I get wet. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's just not very nice. Luckily there's nobody in right now. There's a lady coming in. Everybody does it in the news, so I'll stop recording now. Oh, decided to continue our chat from the warmth of my car. Plus it's starting to pick up with the wind and the noise. I know it's going to be a pain. So as you can see, I'm rather pink, and that tends to happen when you're getting into cold immersion. It all started when we moved here, 2020, September 2020. We were living in another part of Denmark, closer to the city, to Copenhagen, and as I was walking our other dog, who sadly passed away a few years ago, Bailey, I used to walk along the beach. We had a beach very nearby, and I used to see the people swimming and all that. Of course, September was still, like now, relatively okay. And speaking to Elizabeth, I said, I need to get into the Danish vibe. I need to integrate. I need to become a Dane, basically. So I said, I think I'm going to try this swimming thing in the mornings. I see a lot of people, I get to meet people. And so I did. I started to go in and I started swimming and I started to enjoy it and speak to a few people in English, obviously, because my Danish is still not good enough. But they started to explain. There was a varied age group as well, I would say. In their 20s, 30s, 40s, all the way up to their 70s and 80s. And as the months progressed, September, October, November, I started to see that the younger people, let's call those the 20s, 30s, 40s, they started to disappear. They didn't turn up in the mornings. But the older generation was still there. So, I got closer and started to know those people a little bit better. We came into Christmas, and I remember that first Christmas Day or Christmas Eve going in, and the same people in the morning, and next day, and Happy New Year in the sea. And as I was speaking to all these older generation, the eldest I think was Margrethe. I think that translates to Margaret. She was 84. And she had been doing it for over 40 years. And then there was an older chap here. There's a couple, well, there's quite a few old people, but the ones that I chat to here, they've been doing it for 30 plus years. So in my head, it started to make sense. I started to say, hang on, 40 plus years, and they're the ones surviving and putting out here in the winter, managing to continue throughout the cold months with the ice and the snow. And the younger ones have disappeared. There's something in it. And I started to investigate. I then found the crazy guy Wim Hof. I followed him. I did a couple of his courses, all to do with breathing and getting into the cold. Go check him out. He's a phenomenal guy. And I pushed through that winter. I remember I used to have to break the ice because over there the water was less salty than here, even though here it's very hardly any salt, but it was even less so in the other beach. So the sea would actually freeze over. There was a couple of days that I actually could not get into the sea. It was that cold and frozen. But I'd break the ice and I'd go in. Many days it was just me. So the older people would say, hang on, nobody's as crazy as this guy from Gibraltar. So, the following days they would ask me, James, did you come yesterday? Absolutely. I've been here every day. And then when we moved up here, I continued with the process. Elizabeth joined me. She finds it a little bit more challenging in the winter. But I continue to do it. And what changed? Mindset is the biggest one, I would say. Of course, physically for the body, the blood flow is hugely improved, especially when you manage to sit in that cold water for a few minutes at a time. When it's really, really cold, 30 seconds to a minute is probably the most you can manage. When the water is 0 or -0, but outside temperature is -16, 17 degrees, then it's bitterly cold. And no matter what you're wearing, your hats, your gloves, your feet tend to freeze. It's very challenging, but the body gets that rush, and what it does is the heat goes to protect your vital organs. So your extremities get cold, and the heat goes to protect your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys, and the warmth stays internally in your core. But then I started to feel the skin was feeling brighter because of all that blood flow, of course. And the mental part was enormous. Bad days and a few challenges, and another video we'll sit down and talk about our life journey and the challenges that we've had, which I'm sure is very similar to most of you. But we had them, and I was coming out of a business that I had to shut down, unfortunately, so I wasn't feeling very, very well. But that's that mental state of battling the cold and pushing through that barrier. It really, really helped, together with the meditation whilst going into the sea. That also helped. You try and switch off the brain from telling you it's painful. It's not painful. It's just cold. Bear with it and you will be fine. Of course, you've got to be very careful that you don't push yourself and then you end up with hypothermia. I've done that a few times where I've pushed. The most I've done was 36 minutes in 6-degree water. And that was, I'd say, a little bit crazy, because I managed to get out. I was feeling the heat, because that happens as well. When you come out from the extreme cold, your body is just on fire. But by the time I got home, jumped in the shower, got out of the shower, then I started to shake. And I shook for about 30 minutes. So definitely have to understand your body and know where your limits are. But I would say it has been life-changing. And I hope to be 84 and be guiding younger people that are starting out when I'm that age and telling them my story, because I felt hugely motivated and encouraged by those older people when I started 5 years ago. And I owe them a lot because they really did change my life with regards to this side of my journey. So that's my story with regards to cold water immersion. As I said, it's really not that cold today compared to what's coming, but it's the start. It's the start of the whole thing getting serious now. People, hope you enjoyed this little vlog, and we'll catch you on the next one. Ciao for now.